The engagement ring felt heavier than usual as Claire Whitmore gripped the steering wheel, navigating the winding Montana highway. And 3 carats of princess cut diamond, picked by her fiancé Marcus without consulting her, caught the afternoon sunlight and threw fractured rainbows across the dashboard of her rental SUV. "You'll be back in a week?" Marcus had said at the airport, barely looking up from his phone. "Just get your grandmother's affairs sorted and come home. We have the venue walk through on the 15th. That was 4 days ago. Claire was supposed to be organizing her late grandmother's estate, signing papers, meeting with realtors, preparing the old ranch house for sale. Instead, she found herself driving further into the wilderness, away from cell service, away from Marcus's 17 unread text messages about wedding favors and seating charts. The Hawthorne Ranch sign appeared around a bend, weathered wood with hand-painted letters that had faded to a rustic charm. Claire almost missed the turnoff. Her grandmother's handwritten note had been tucked into the property deed. "If you want to understand who you really are, spend a week at the Hawthorne Ranch. Tell them Rose sent you." The Claire had no idea what that meant. Grandma Rose had always been cryptic, speaking in riddles and half-told stories. But something in those words had pulled at Claire like a fishhook in her chest. The ranch house came into view as she crested a hill, a sprawling log structure with a green metal roof, surrounded by endless stretches of golden grassland. Horses grazed in the distance, and mountains rose like silent sentinels against the impossibly blue sky. It was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. A man emerged from the barn as she parked. Tall, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair that curled slightly at his collar. He wore dusty jeans, scuffed boots, and a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. When he pushed his hat back, Claire saw eyes the color of amber whiskey. "Help you?" His voice was rough, like gravel and honey mixed together. Claire stepped out of the SUV, suddenly conscious of her designer jeans and cashmere sweater, clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "I'm looking for the Hawthorne Ranch. My grandmother Rose Whitmore sent me." "Well, not sent exactly. She passed away 3 weeks ago, but she left me a note." But she was babbling. Why was she babbling? The man's expression softened. "Rose." He said the name like a prayer. "I'm sorry for your loss. She was a remarkable woman." He extended his hand. "Cole Hawthorne. This is my family's ranch." This handshake was firm, collused. Claire felt something electric in the touch and pulled away too quickly. "Claire Whitmore. I don't really know why I'm here." The note didn't explain much. Cole studied her face for a long moment, and Claire had the unsettling feeling he could see straight through her polished exterior to all the doubts she'd been burying for months. "Rose called me 2 months ago," Cole said finally. "Asked if I'd teach her granddaughter about ranch life for a week. Said you needed to remember something important." He paused. "She paid in advance. Said you'd come when you were ready. She paid you." Claire felt her cheeks flush. "I'm sorry, this is so strange. I didn't know I can pay you back, obviously. I don't want to impose." "Already paid," Cole said simply. "And Rose's money is no good here anyway. She helped my family more times than I can count." He gestured toward the house. "You can stay in the guest cabin. Meals with the family if you want them. Work starts at sunrise." "Work?" The corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile, but close. "Can't learn about ranching from the sidelines, Ms. Whitmore." "Claire?" She corrected automatically. "Claire," he repeated, and somehow her name sounded different in his voice.
Softer. Real.
2. The guest cabin was simple but clean. Pine walls, a stone fireplace, a bed with a quilted coverlet that looked handmade. No television. No Wi-Fi. Through the window, Claire could see the mountains turning purple as the sun dropped lower. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, the last gasp of cellular signal. "Marcus. Where are you? You missed the florist appointment?" "Claire, this is getting ridiculous." "Call me." She stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. What would she even say? "I'm on a ranch in Montana because my dead grandmother's mysterious note told me to be here, learning to do manual labor from a man who makes my heart race in a way you never have." Claire turned off her phone. That night, she was invited to dinner at the main house. Cole's family was warm and loud. His mother, Diane, his sister, Elena, with her husband and 2 kids, and his father, John, who'd been in a wheelchair since a riding accident 5 years ago. They welcomed Claire like she'd always belonged there, telling stories about Rose that made her laugh and cry simultaneously. "Your grandmother saved this ranch?" Diane said, passing Claire a bowl of mashed potatoes. "When John had his accident, we were going to lose everything. Rose bought half our land, then sold it back to us for $1 when we got on our feet." "She never told me?" Claire whispered. "That was Rose," Cole said across the table. "She didn't help people for recognition." After dinner, Claire stood on the porch, wrapped in a borrowed jacket that smelled like pine and leather. Cole appeared beside her with 2 mugs of coffee. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too quiet. I'm used to sirens and traffic." "Where's home?" "Boston. I'm a corporate attorney." The words felt hollow, like a script she'd memorized but didn't believe anymore. "What kind of law?" "Mergers and acquisitions." "Very boring, very lucrative." She sipped the coffee. "Strong and bitter?" "Nothing like the vanilla lattes she usually ordered." "My fiancé is a partner at the firm." She saw Cole's eyes drop to her ring. "Congratulations." "Thank you." The words tasted like ash. "We're getting married in June. Destination wedding in Napa Valley. 200 guests. Sounds expensive." Claire laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "Everything about this wedding is expensive. The dress cost more than a used car. But do you want it?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Claire opened her mouth to say, of course, to recite all the reasons why Marcus was a good match, successful, ambitious, from the right family. But under Cole's steady gaze, the lies wouldn't come. "I don't know," she whispered finally. "I don't know what I want anymore." Cole didn't offer platitudes or advice. He just stood there in the darkness, solid and real, drinking his coffee. And somehow, his silence was more comforting than any words could have been. Claire discovered that 5 a.m. came very early when you weren't used to it. Cole knocked on her cabin door while stars still dotted the sky, handed her a thermos of coffee, and led her to the barn without preamble. "Ever been around horses?" he asked. "Riding lessons when I was 8. Does that count?" His expression suggested it did not. He introduced her to the horses, a dozen of them, each with distinct personalities. There was Thunder, an elderly gelding who nuzzled Claire's pockets looking for treats. Sage, a nervous mare who shayed away from sudden movements. And Copper, Cole's own horse, a massive chestnut stallion who watched Claire with intelligent eyes. "We'll start simple," Cole said, mucking stalls. It was disgusting work. By hour 2, Claire's manicured nails were chipped, her cashmere sweater was ruined, and every muscle in her back screamed in protest. She wanted to quit. She wanted to march back to the cabin, pack her things, and drive straight to the airport. But then she'd catch Cole watching her, that almost smile playing at his lips, and pride would surge through her veins. She'd stabbed a pitchfork into another pile of soiled hay and kept going. They worked in companionable silence, broken only by the soft sounds of horses and the rhythmic scrape of shovels. Claire found her mind quieting, the constant chatter of anxiety and obligation fading to white noise. "Why do you do this?" she asked during a water break. "You obviously love it, but it's brutal work." Cole leaned against the barn wall, hat pushed back. "Because it matters. These animals depend on us. This land depends on us." He gestured to the mountains beyond. "My great-grandfather built this ranch from nothing. Every fence post, every building, it's all legacy. When I work this land, I'm part of something bigger than myself." Claire thought about her own work, drafting contracts, negotiating deals, helping corporations consume smaller corporations. When had she last felt like she was part of something meaningful? "What do you do when you're not working?" she asked. Cole's eyes crinkled with amusement. "This is Montana. Work is what we do. No hobbies. No secret passion for skydiving or competitive chess. I read. Build furniture sometimes." He paused. "And I volunteer with a program that helps troubled kids learn responsibility through ranch work." Of course he did. Claire felt something twist in her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. That afternoon, Cole taught her to ride. Not the careful, controlled lessons from her childhood, but real riding, feeling the horse's movements, learning to communicate through subtle shifts of weight and pressure. They rode out across the property, through fields of wild grass and stands of aspen trees. Cole pointed out landmarks, telling stories about the land. He showed her a spring-fed pond where herons nested, a rocky outcropping where his father had proposed to his mother, a grove of trees his grandfather had planted to mark each of his children's births. "You know every inch of this place," Claire marveled. "It's home," Cole said simply. "Knowing it is like knowing my own heartbeat." They stopped on a hill overlooking the entire ranch. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Claire had never seen anything so beautiful. "What do you know about your home?" Cole asked quietly. "Really no?" Claire thought about her apartment in Boston, all white walls and minimalist furniture, decorated by an interior designer Marcus had hired. She thought about the city, where she ordered from the same 3 restaurants and took the same route to work every day. When had she last noticed anything? Really paid attention? Nothing, she admitted. "I don't know anything." Cole didn't respond, but she felt his understanding in the silence between them. The days fell into a rhythm, wake before dawn. Work until muscles ached, meals with Cole's family, filled with laughter and warmth. long evening conversations on the porch, where Claire told Cole things she'd never told anyone, her fears about the wedding, her growing dissatisfaction with her work, the sense that she was living someone else's life. Cole listened without judgment, asked questions that made her think, challenged her assumptions gently but firmly. And slowly, day by day, Claire felt something shifting inside her, like ice breaking up after a long winter. She learned to fix fences, to treat a horse's sore hoof, to read weather signs in the clouds. Her hands grew calloused, her skin tanned. She stopped checking her silent phone and stopped flinching at the absence of constant noise. On the 5th night, they stayed out late repairing a damaged section of fence. The work went longer than expected, and they ended up eating cold sandwiches under the stars while the horses grazed nearby. "Tell me about him," Cole said suddenly. "Your fiancé." The Claire took a bite of sandwich, chewing slowly while she formulated an answer. "Marcus is successful, driven. He knows what he wants and goes after it. Do you love him?" The question hung in the night air between them, heavy with implications. "I thought I did," Claire said finally. When he proposed, it seemed like the logical next step. We'd been dating for 2 years. Everyone said we were perfect together, and on paper we are, same education, same profession, same goals. She paused. But I've felt more alive in 5 days here than I have in 2 years with Marcus. That's not an answer. No, Claire agreed. It's not. She looked at Cole, really looked at him. The strong line of his jaw, the way his hands moved with such confidence, the quiet strength that radiated from him. He was nothing like Marcus. Nothing like the men she'd dated in Boston. He was real in a way that made everything else feel like shadows. "Ask me the question you really want to ask," Claire whispered. Cole's amber eyes met hers, and the air between them crackled with electricity. "Do you want to go back?" "No." The answer came without hesitation, from a place deeper than thought. "I don't want to go back at all." Cole moved closer, not touching, but near enough that she could feel the heat of him. "Claire." "I know," she breathed. "I know this is crazy. I know I'm engaged. I know I'm supposed to be planning a wedding and settling estate papers and living my perfectly scheduled life. But Cole, I feel like I've been sleepwalking for years. And you?" Her voice cracked. "You woke me up. I can't ask you to throw away your life for what?" Claire challenged. "For a man who sees me? Who challenges me to be better? Who doesn't want me to fit into some predetermined mold? You've known me less than a week. I know. It's insane. But I also know that I've felt more myself in these few days than I have in years." She touched his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm. "Tell me you don't feel it too." Cole's jaw tightened. "What I feel doesn't matter if you're promised to someone else. What if I wasn't?" The question hung between them like a bridge, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Cole pulled back, putting distance between them. "You need to figure out what you want, Claire. Really want. Not because of me, not because of this place. For yourself." He was right. Claire knew he was right, but the realization didn't make the ache in her chest any less painful. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She sat on the cabin porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at her phone. She turned it on for the first time in days. 43 missed calls from Marcus. 27 voicemails. Countless text messages that progressed from concerned to annoyed to angry. Claire, this isn't funny anymore. The wedding planner needs decisions by tomorrow. My mother is furious. Are you seriously going to throw away 3 years because you're having some kind of breakdown? A breakdown. Was that what this was? Or was it the opposite, the first honest thing she'd done in years? Claire scrolled through her photo gallery, picture after picture of her and Marcus at firm events, charity galas, expensive restaurants. In every photo, they stood side by side but somehow apart. Marcus's arm around her waist felt possessive rather than affectionate. Claire's smile looked painted on, pretty and empty. She found one photo from this week. Elena had taken it at dinner 2 nights ago. Claire was laughing at something Cole's nephew had said, her hair messy, her face free of makeup, wearing a borrowed flannel shirt 3 sizes too big. She looked wild and happy and real. The person in that photo was a stranger, and yet, somehow, she was also more genuinely Claire than the polished woman in all the Boston pictures. A light clicked on in the main house. Through the window, Claire saw Cole moving in the kitchen. Before she could second-guess herself, she was walking across the yard, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She knocked softly. Cole opened the door, hair mussed, wearing sweatpants and a faded T-shirt. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "I turned on my phone." Cole nodded, stepped aside to let her in. The kitchen was warm, smelling of coffee and cinnamon. He poured her a mug without asking. "What did it say?" "That I'm having a breakdown. That I'm throwing away my future. That his mother has selected napkin colors and needs my approval." Claire laughed without humor. Not one message asked if I was okay. Not one asked what I needed or wanted. Just logistics. Problems I'm creating for other people? What are you going to tell him? Claire wrapped her hands around the warm mug. The truth. That I can't marry him. That I can't go back to that life. Because of me. Because of me. She met his eyes. You helped me see it, but this decision is mine. I choose this. Whatever this is. Cole crossed the kitchen slowly, deliberately. He cupped her face in his hands, rough palms against her cheeks, and looked at her with such intensity that Claire felt her breath catch. I have nothing to offer you, he said quietly. No fancy apartment, no expense account, no social connections. Just this ranch hard work and authenticity, Claire finished, and purpose. And the first man who's ever seen me as something more than an accessory to his success. Claire, she kissed him, rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his and felt the world tilt on its axis. Cole made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, kissing her back with a hunger that matched her own. His hand slid into her hair, and she gripped his shirt, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, everything felt right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. This is going to be complicated, he murmured. I know. People are going to judge you. Let them. You might regret it. Claire pulled back to look at him properly. The only thing I regret is not coming here sooner. Not listening to my grandmother when she was still alive to tell me why she sent that note. She loved you, Cole said. She talked about you all the time. Said you'd forgotten who you were underneath all those suits and spreadsheets. Said you needed to remember that you were a wild thing once. Camping trips and horseback rides and skinned knees. A tears pricked Claire's eyes. I did forget? Then remember, Cole said simply. Stay here? Not for me. Though I'm asking for me too. Stay and figure out who Claire Whitmore is when nobody's telling her who to be. The next morning, Claire called Marcus. It was the hardest conversation of her life. He couldn't understand how a week could change everything. He was angry, then pleading, then angry again. He told her she was making the biggest mistake of her life. He told her she'd come crawling back when she realized how hard real life was outside their privileged bubble. Maybe he was right. Maybe in a month or a year, she'd regret throwing away her entire life for something as intangible as feeling alive. But standing in the Montana sunshine with the sound of horses whinnying in the background and the mountains rising eternal against the sky, Claire couldn't imagine going back. Couldn't imagine choosing the safe path when the wild path called her name. She returned the ring by mail, along with a letter apologizing for the hurt she'd caused and explaining as best she could. She called the firm and gave her notice. She talked to lawyers about Grandma Rose's estate and made a decision that would have shocked her Boston self. She wasn't selling the property. Instead, she'd use it to start something new. Cole's sister Elena helped her draft a business plan. Claire would use her legal knowledge and her grandmother's land to create a nonprofit, a place where at-risk youth could learn about ranching, responsibility, and finding themselves in nature. She'd partner with Cole's existing program, expanding it, giving it resources and structure. You don't have to do this, Cole said when she showed him the plans. You don't have to justify staying. I'm not justifying, Claire said. I'm building. There's a difference. The weeks turned to months. Claire moved out of the guest cabin and into her grandmother's old house. She slowly made it her own, keeping Rose's quilts and family photos but adding her own touches. She got certified in equine therapy. She learned to run a nonprofit, to write grants, to wrangle teenage attitudes as deftly as she'd once wrangled corporate contracts. And through it all, there was Cole. Patient, steady Cole, who taught her to trust herself as much as he'd taught her to trust horses. Their relationship deepened slowly, built on foundations of friendship and respect rather than passion alone. Though there was plenty of passion too, stolen kisses in the barn, long rides that ended with tangled limbs in wildflower fields. Quiet mornings waking up in each other's arms. They didn't rush. Claire had spent too many years rushing toward a future someone else designed. This time, she wanted to savor every moment. 1 year after arriving at Hawthorne Ranch, Claire stood on the porch of her grandmother's house, her house now, watching the first group of students work with the horses. 12 kids from troubled backgrounds, learning that they were capable of more than they'd ever imagined. Cole came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. Happy, he asked. Claire thought about everything she'd given up, the corner office, the designer wardrobe, the country club membership. She thought about everything she'd gained, purpose, authenticity, love that filled her up instead of hollowing her out. Happier than I knew possible, she said. Any regrets? She turned in his arms, looking up at his face, the face that had become more dear to her than any other. One, she said seriously. Cole tensed. What's that? That I waited so long to come here, that I spent so many years being someone I wasn't. She smiled. But Grandma Rose knew. She always knew I'd find my way home. This is home? Claire looked around. At the mountains, the ranch, the horses, the kids laughing as they learned to groom. She looked at Cole, solid and real in hers. You're home, she whispered. Wherever you are, that's where I belong. Cole kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple silver band. No diamonds, no ostentation. Just clean lines and honest metal? I know it's too soon, he said, but I know you just escaped one engagement, but I want you to have this. Not as a promise to marry me tomorrow or next year or ever necessarily. Just as a promise that I see you, the real you, and I'm not going anywhere. Claire took the ring, felt its weight in her palm. Light as air compared to the 3-carat burden she'd worn before. She slipped it on her finger where it belonged. Ask me anyway, she said. Cole's amber eyes widened. Claire? Ask me. He dropped to one knee right there on the porch with sawdust on his jeans and the smell of horses in the air and everything beautifully imperfect. Marry me, he said. Not because it's logical or expected. Not because our families approve or our friends think we're perfect together. Marry me because every morning I wake up and choose you, and I want to keep choosing you for the rest of my life. Yes, Claire said without hesitation. Yes. And as Cole stood and swept her into his arms, spinning her around while she laughed, Claire sent a silent thank you to her grandmother. For the cryptic note, for the paid week at the ranch, for knowing exactly what her granddaughter needed to find her way home. She'd been engaged to the wrong man, but she'd fallen for the right one. And sometimes, the wild path led exactly where you were always meant to be. They married in the fall on the ranch, surrounded by both families and a crowd of students whose lives had been changed by the program Claire built. No destination wedding, no hundreds of guests, no napkin colors to approve. Just love, simple and true. Marcus sent flowers with no note. Claire hoped he'd found his own happiness, his own authenticity. She'd found hers. In the Montana mountains. In the calluses on her hands. In the honest work of each day. In the man who'd taught her that the most important journey was the one back to yourself. And every morning when she woke in Cole's arms, with the sound of horses greeting the dawn and the mountains standing eternal outside their window, Claire whispered the same words. Thank you, Grandma Rose. Thank you for showing me the way home.